in 2014 time frame, if you see that big data was just it is the field is evolving. It's just originated maybe in something from 2012 time frame and all that. So we started hearing the word big data, and so that's basically what I showed that here. Next. So and then we see the why today big data we are talking about, and then how the data science came into that. You say that there are a lot of resources, lot of things which are contributed to the big data, like BigScience computing and all that, okay. And then computing accessibility, cloud computing was not there before 2007 and all that. If you see 2007 onwards, cloud started, and then before that just the grid computing was ruling the world, and so all these have given a lot of computational power to the world, right. So this computational power has generated a lot of data. Not only that, there are a lot of other data also. We will just quickly see that. Okay, next. So if you see in 2009, the whole world data was put together. Whatever the data, movies, papers, books, everything, whatever you can we preserve there is the data. If you see that, it was only just 0.79 gigabytes, right? And then in 2010, so that 2009 is not that particular year. Up to 2009, last 40 years of science and whatever experiments, all whatever the data which has been available in the world which was seen, measured, it was 0.79 gigabytes. And 2010, if you see that, this has within a year, it has crossed the 1.2 gigabytes. And 2009, if you see that, so it is almost generated the same amount of data like last 40 years within that 1 year. And 2015, by 2020, this data has crossed to 35 gigabytes. And by 2025, we are expecting that by 175 gigabytes of data will be available. So it is a large amount of data, and the challenge is how to handle that. Okay. So what are the sources? There are many sources. Social networks started, and lot of tweets and all that, lot of videos, everything is getting up. And then lot of sensors, sensing technology started from 2010 and all that, sensors. And then IoT area, IoT field has evolved starting from 2015 and so on, right? So sensing technology and all these things are also generating continuously the data, right? So next. And then social media, personal data, your own data, and then corporate companies generating a lot of data, and then customers data. Nowadays we are seeing for everything customer feedbacks, everything, right? The customers purchase a lot of things from the market, the buckets of data is there, and transaction records, sensors. So this data, earlier what people used to do is, when it crosses beyond a limit, they used to delete it. After 3-4 years, the data used to be thrown. Then suddenly somebody said data is gold. So data is gold. If you have the data, you can mine the data and you can generate wealth, right? So then data mining became a field area, 2010, that time frame. And then people started preserving the data, and now whatever the data is there is a precious, correct? And then this data is growing much faster rate beyond what we are expecting. Next. Okay, so all these, they are the various generators, so I don't need to explain this, most of them are self-evident. So a lot of scientific experiments, scientific instruments, and then we have seen that recently Chandrayaan, so it has generated so much. Like that, there are so many explorations are happening in the world, right? Next. Can you change the slide? Okay. So data is changing, so data never sleeps. Continuously every day billions and trillions of data is getting generated by so many ways. These are all the various contributors for the data and all that. Next. So this data, if you see this, data is everywhere the data is there. Okay. And next. Now nowadays network world, everywhere lot of networks are there. So like sensor networks, data networks, transport networks, social networks, power grid, and all that, everywhere it is generating huge amount of data, right? So like if you see that industrial automation, all the vehicles and all that, they generate data. Nowadays vehicles are connected, automatically vehicles are getting connected, they generate the data where they are, locational data and all that. And mobile networks generate so much of data, right? And then home appliances, and then body area network. Nowadays, people started using the body area network circle. A lot of sensors are there on your body, they wear it, and then automatically in the ICUs and all that, right? So these networks pumping more and more data into the network. Next. So like a water cycle, you know, this water, it will be there, it will get evaporated and then fall. This is water cycle. Similarly, like just like this water cycle, okay. Similar, just like the water cycle, there is also data cycle. Next. So a lot of applications, and this data keep on generating, and then the more people uses a lot of services, it keeps generating that, right? So this is a data cycle, which is also like a water cycle, it is going on. Next. And then these data sources, if you see that in 1990s, when we were talking about the data, we used to measure in the terabytes. The whole of the data used to be terabytes. So you know, in 1995, when I was doing my PhD, at that time I keep hearing about the Human Genome Project. That Human Genome Project, by 2020, it has generated so much data, that chromosomes data and all that, and they kept this data in open sources, like petabytes of databases, and people do not know what to do with these petabytes, because petabytes is a very, very huge data which no computer can handle that. Your computer just not even able to copy that string once and then do something, even just small thing it cannot view. So computers used to be in the like the old movies, no, that cycle it used to, because the challenge it was for computer science, it was during that time. So 1990s, the data will be maximum is in terabytes, and then by 2000, if you see that, the data we used to, the whole world data used to be in few petabytes, and then by 2010, if you see that, now the we are measuring in the terms of exabyte. So there are a lot of the data is growing exponentially. Next. And you know that the number of, earlier used to be in a region used to have one telephone, but today with in every pocket there are 3 or 4 telephones and all that, right? And that's also pumping a lot of data. Okay, we are almost by 2020 we are having 50 billion mobiles users and all. Mobiles are available and all. Next. Okay, so just to give you a glimpse of what is this etabyte and all that, say 1000 is kilobyte, thousands is called 1 megabyte, okay, and 1000 megabytes we used to call a gigabyte, and 1000 gigabytes is 1 terabyte, and so on, right? So if you talk any mathematicians, 10 to the power of 12 is a big number, so big number. Then they said the world, how big, like infinity, people used to talk at one time, 10 to the power 12. But today we are talking about 10 to the power 24, right? Petabytes. If you see that in terms of binary numbers, it is almost like 2 to the power of 80 bytes. This is the order of the data today, which is there in the world. Next. So now this data, earlier it's only, we used to talk about the data only volume. Volume means how much volume. So, but today the data has a lot of other characters, right? Like volume, velocity, variety, and so on. Like volume means, you know, that is a static data. And then if you see the velocity, that means a movement, like your YouTube channels and all that. There is a, right? So there is a data which is it is dynamic, not the static data. And then not only these are the 4 characters. Initially when we are talking about the big data, the data should be handled with these characteristics. Now today if you see that, there are so many V's for the data. Next. So there are so many characteristics for the data, volume, velocity, variety, and all that. All these things to be handled by your computers, right? So that is a big challenge for the computer science people. Next. Okay, so then we said that this data is a gold, I said, right? The more the data you should be, if you are able to handle this data, you can create, you don't need to do any business, you don't need to produce any factory items and all that. If you just take the data and extract the information, knowledge from that, and you share that, you can become a much higher billionaire, right? So that is a big industry. That's what the data science has promised, that US healthcare systems, so much money can be generated, and people are already using that, and these are the figures how much money is getting generated. Some a glimpse just to basically. It's that is because there is a money in in this data, people started looking into this data and how to handle that and all that. That's how the data science field has been originated, right? Next. So now I just give you a glimpse of some of these experiments called BigScience experiments, which normally in your normal curriculum you don't get an exposure and all that. And see this, climate modeling, you know that. Climate modeling is one of the big consumers of the data, and this data is very valuable, right? For weather prediction and all that, we just predict based on not only the current parameters, we also see the past data of the atmosphere and all that. That's also useful for the weather prediction and all that. And also it generates, continuously keep on generating a lot of data also. Then the Human Genome Project, which I was talking that, I'll just give few slides on this project. And then advertising, all that I don't need to talk about that. And then the particle physics people, they have so many big data type of experiments and all that. They are the another, say, rather than the computer science people, these computers are being heavily used by other fields like science people, metallurgy people, doctors and all that, right? So we'll see some of the experiments like medicine side and earth sciences, astronomy, some applications I just give it. And all this is generating a lot of data which is coming into the big data field. Okay, next. So these large data sets is a big challenge. So what are the challenges? First is storing the data. So you need to have enough storage capability. Whatever the storage capability, in no time, in another 2 years, that will not be there. So we need to find new technology. That's how the storage, the memory technologies have evolved last 20 years, right? Then processing in timely manner. That is another crux. Okay, processing the data we can do it, but in timely manner, real time. That's another challenge. Then processing variety of data. We have seen so many varieties, right? You should be able to capable of handling these varieties of data. Okay, your algorithms, everything should be doing that. And then high-end infrastructures, costly high-end infrastructure where you can hold this data grids, storage grids, computing grids, and all those things, clouds and all that. All these the infrastructure. These are the various challenges, and these challenges have led to the evolution of the data science. Basically, that's how the data science being originated. It's like a science, basically. Next. So the data science, we talk about many things like machine learning, classification, and various things. Nowadays, we are talking about AI also is, right, adding to that. So for AI field, in the last few years, we have started seeing it very active, right? But otherwise, AI field was very old. In 80s, 90s, when I was doing my PhD in 90s, during 1995 time, AI courses we had done. But thing is, AI died basically because it didn't deliver the real-time products. But again, AI started coming from 2012 time frame onwards because there is a lot of data. AI, one of the base for the AI, for a breath, right? Well, like a manage pranam gali alago, AI ki base data. How much more the data, the AI field will be doing better. So lot of data is there. That's why AI again came up right now. Now generative AI, so many things are coming up. Next. So these data basically we can broadly classify into observational data, experimental data, simulation data. So I'll be talking about some of these data, which is like a experimental data, which are generated, and observational data is like astrophysics, astronomy, earth observation, geophysics. All these people will be observing the systems, and then they keep generating whatever their observations and all that, right? And experimental data is you conduct some sort of experiments, and these experiments do generate a lot of data, like a Large Hadron Collider. You know this Large Hadron Collider project? So it is like people want to know the Big Bang. Is it a reality or true? They want to simulate that. They want to simulate that Big Bang on Earth. Okay, and that was generating so much data. For that, you don't believe that 10 years of grid computing work we have done for data storage grid. They were constructing storage grid. That was 2012 time frame and all that. And then the preserve the data of that bang which happens, and within that 1 second, not even 1 second, it is few microseconds. That few microseconds data, to preserve that, they made 10 or 12 years of effort, the computers, and then storage grid, data grid, and all those things, experiments they have done. Okay, then simulation data like weather simulations and all that. So some of the things which I will give it. Next. Okay, well, obviously to handle this big data, we need a high performance computing. So that next, yeah. this I won't focus on this. Next, I'll focus on the other experiments. Like these big science experiments are like many are there. Like I'll just talk few experiments like Human Genome Project, right? So Human Genome Project 1986 time frame. So we are able to do the structure of a gene of a only fly, small fly or bacteria. Only their gene structure is known that time, right? So to find the gene structure of higher living beings, it used to be that the technology which was supporting that time is very slow. It takes longer time and the technology. So then somebody, these guys, two people, there's Charles and Delcy and the other guy, they wanted to start a private industry where this gene structures can be found little faster. They want to automate this processing and all that, and they want to start it. Then US has taken up this project. Like US government has created this project, Human Genome Project, and this is being coordinated by Department of Energy and National Institute of Health, and this was launched in 1986. Okay, it took almost like 10 to 13 years of time to find the human genome. Okay, and then after 20, maybe sometime around 2003 or that time frame, they first published the human genome, right? And these people, after so much of struggle, they found this. They do not know anything because it is like a Latin and Greek. It is only a string. You know, gene means it's a chromosome, right? We all might have heard of that. We have 23 pairs of gene in every cell. We have trillions of cells. In each cell, we have 23 pairs of chromosome. Each chromosome, if you stretch it, it is petabytes of data in that. Okay, so they found the data and they don't know what to do. What they did, they put the large databases, peta database, create and then open source it for all people. Please, anybody want to use it free. But only thing is, after using that, tell us what you have found, right? So that's where the human genome has created a lot of job potential, and physicists, chemists, mathematicians, computer science, all people, there are a lot of jobs were there in that time during that. Okay, so then I'll just little bit elaborate later. Then Large Hadron Collider. These guys, there are two theories, right? How the universe has been created. The physicist will be continuously thinking how the universe has created and what has made this universe come and all that. Then somebody said there are some particles, that particles has created the entire universe in instantaneous time. So in Indian spirituality we said, na sankalpa matrana prapancham puttindantaru Bhagavantudu, right? So just in his sankalpa, in his thought, just in a split second, the whole universe is created. But that was true or false, the scientists don't agree, right? All these theories, they wanted to create that Big Bang and all that. They want to see what is that particle which has created. So for that they made, there is a huge experiment, this is a Large Hadron Collider. I'll just show some slides on that. Then there is a lot of grids, right? A lot of sudden diseases which are being, the grid is the grid computing and all that is started. Then they have a lot of data and they want a lot of computational power. So grid computing was field at that time. Then there is SETI. SETI is scientific experiments for search for extraterrestrial intelligence. That means we will be continuously watching the skies to see that there may be some intelligence in other grahas and all that. We have a lot of big telescopes watching the earth and they will be continuously storing the data and all that. There are a lot of experiments are happening for the last 20-30 years. Okay, so all these things, they are huge big science experiments. Next. Let us see Human Genome Project. So half century ago, we do not know about the genetic structure of people and all that. The Human Genome Project, it is a revolution in the computer science, not only computer science, in the biological sciences. And then they found the genes, biology innovation around the world, and it played a key role in the, now we are talking, SAR said that our age can be increased to 100 years. These are all the outcomes of this. Like we have found so many new medicines, customized drug design. All those things are the outcome of this field. Okay, next. The Human Genome Project was an international research effort to determine sequence of human genome and identify the genes that contain what it contains. US has coordinated this project by the Department of Energy and the National Institute of Health. Okay, next. So then the goal of this is that to identify approximately the 100,000 genes in the human DNA and determine the sequence of 3 billion bases that make up the human DNA, okay, and store this information into the databases and develop tools to handle these data and then do some analysis on that and then address the ethical, legal, what is the connectivity between these people in this continent and that one, all these things we can find out the relationships. Next. So this is a milestone. It started in 86 and in 2003 it first announced the first gene structure of, so some 20 people volunteered to find out they gave their gene structures and all. Next. So the goals is this one, find the DNA, develop genetic linkage. That means we can find the genetic linkage, but people who are in this continent and other Africa and all that. So most of the genes of 90% of the people are the same. 90 to 99% of the gene structure for all the people is same. Only there is a small minor differences, and that minor differences makes these so much of variety for us. Okay, to obtain physical map of human genome, to develop technology management of human genome information, that is managing this information is a big challenge, right? And then using these genes, find the diseases, right? Cure the diseases. Today we are talking about giving you, if you give a sample, one drop of blood, I can tell after 20-30 years what type of disease you are going to get. Are you going to get this disease, all that. That is called disease prediction. All this also is today a reality. A lot of revolution has done in medical and other fields. Next. Yeah, so next, okay. There are 20 people contributed in the first project. Their genes were mapped and then this one. But today if you give your blood, if you pay $100, you get your gene structured and they will get a nice ID card. In that your whole gene information is printed. So if any problem is there, if you give your ID card, doctors, you don't need to tell what is your problem and all that. You put this ID card, he will find out what disease you have 10 years back, what disease you are going to get after 10 years afterwards and all. Next. So benefits are the improvement in medicine, microbial genome research, DNA forensics. Today we are using the DNA forensics in a lot of crime and all that, right? How this fellow is related with a small mark of blood and all that. Okay, and better understanding of the human evolution and the migration. Next. Okay, so all these are various applications of the human genome. Next. This also you can skip it. So genetic testing is another thing, is another field. Today we are able to test the genetic level, the testing and all that. So then, okay, next. Okay. So then physicists, let us see how the physicists are using this, and then what type of experiments they are doing, how the computer science is supporting the physics and all. So people will be always thinking that what is the world made up of and what holds this world, the universe together, right? And physicists hope to get these answers and through analysis of data and all that. And LHC experiment is one such experiment to help these physicists, right? Next. They want to find out those particles in the physics which have created this whole universe. These particles, the politicians, not politicians, the journalists, when this experiment was happening, they asked that why they were laughing at this experiment, because this is a huge project, and then what you are finding, then they said we are finding the particles which created the universe. Then sarcastically they said it is called God particle. They named the particle God particle, and all that. Later lot of news next 10 years. Then the God particle is found in the 2003, that the boson and all that particle, you might have heard of that. So boson particles. So next. So the energy, the physicists will be talking about in energy frontiers, intensity frontiers, cosmic frontiers. The physicists will be doing a lot of experiments and all that, high energy particles. Then people will be talking about, they want to find out the standard model of the universe. Okay, and then there are a lot of things. People are looking continuously for that. Next. So this GMRT is the Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope. This will be continuously watching the skies. This is there near the Pune, and they are partners of the Gurdware when we are working on the data grid and all that. So they will be always watching these pulsars. Pulsars are nothing but rapidly rotating neutron stars. Okay, and whatever the remnants of these explosives of these stars, star death, star creation, and all that. So these ionized neutral hydrogen gas clouds which are available in the space, and all these things they will be watching, right? So this is the thing. So this type of giant antennas, they will be spread across almost like 10 kilometers area, or they're all connected, so that it becomes like a huge antenna. This is called electronic antennas, right? Even in the Ooty also we had a very huge antenna system. Okay, so these are the type of things which they will be done. Next. So the Large Hadron Collider is this one. This is somewhere in the Germany, the borders. Okay, so this is a cyclotron. It is below the Earth. It's a 25 kilometers radius. This cyclotron is being constructed, and it will be working at the cryogenics. That means minus 273 degrees centigrade. Because when the bang happens, the Big Bang happens, it almost like a 200 million degrees centigrade it gets generated. For the temperature, everything on our Earth will get evaporated, right, in no time. So they want to contain the temperature and all that. They have made a cryogenic this one, and the diameter, the vyasam anta kada, manaku three buildings diameter, 3 building height that cave was, which was. I'll just show some pictures. Next. So LHC, the aim of the collider is to smash photons moving at 99.99% speed of light into each other and create the conditions of a fraction of microsecond, the Big Bang. Okay. So the LHC experiment try and work out what happened during the Big Bang. That's what they did this one. Next. So in this experiment, almost like 140 countries are the partners for this, because this experiment, this type of massive experiments cannot be conducted by one country people, not just conducted. We cannot analyze that. So all the scientists, all the intelligent people in the world, they are partners of this in this project. Okay. So this is the hole inside below the Earth, 25 kilometers. This is this one. This is the beams which are going, which will be actually the photon beams will be pumped into this, and the photon beam, after a few rotations, it gets accelerated, and it accelerated with very high speed, and 2 photon beams in opposite directions rotate, and then they collide that. So this is the cross sectional field of this, right? So it is almost have to handle 1.9 kilo kelvins at the, it is cooled by this helium super fluid helium, and it's almost like 0.5 tons to 8.3 tons. The ramps, that's for the cooling and other things we're talking about. Both beams will be pumped in at the center. No, one beam one direction, other beam in the other direction. Next photos. Okay, so these are the LHC RF cavities. It accelerates the beam from 400 giga electro voltages to 7 tera electro voltages. You can imagine that voltage levels what they were handling that, right, during the injection. Need to replace the synchrotron energy losses also constantly you have to take. That means this beam should be continuously accelerating and all that. Okay, and then next. So this is this one at different places, different type of measurements will be done in this whole of the radius and all that. And next. So the photon beams are injected from the SPS at 400 giga electro voltages, and then accelerated to 17 tera electrical voltages. Okay, and this lifetime is to store the beams for 10 hours approximately. And then how many bunches of photons they are pumping? They are pumping 2,808 bunches of photons in each direction, and each bunch contains 10 to the power of 11 photons and travels around the ring in 0.9 milliseconds. So that even the 25 kilometers is traveled in 0.9 millisecond in one round. Okay, so the bunch spacing is all this. Okay, so several interactions during the bunching crossing. Whenever it crosses, the photon crosses the bunch, they take some measurements and they see that the photon is gained the required speed and all that and all that. Okay, it is almost at the end. Expected data rate is it generates approximately 10 petabytes of data. Okay, in the year and all that. Okay, that time petabyte of information is very large. So we have floppy drives and all that. the high density floppy drives, not the floppy drives, floppy disks. If we keep this data which is being generated in that experiment, if we stack them, the stack height will be the Concorde aircraft. Have you heard of the Concorde aircraft, supersonic aircraft? That aircraft flies much higher than the normal international aircraft. So this stack will cross that stack, that height. That was data it was generating, because those days the storage capabilities are only with in that terms. Okay, next. So the various other things like LHC detectors and all that, each collaborates. In the collaboration, there are 2,000 physicists from all over the world, and then understand this data, what is generated and all that. Okay, next. So this is the center of this one, how the beams will be pumped and all that. This is all this is at minus 273 Kelvin temperature, the cryogenics environment. All this is that. Okay, next. Okay, next. Yeah, this is where the actual beam happens, the bang happens, and then did all the measuring things to capture the data and all that. Next. Okay, next. So the structure and function of LHC. The Large Hadron Collider is located circular tunnel, 27 kilometers circumference. The tunnel is buried around previous 100 meters below the ground, and this is this one, right? It is in the border of the Swiss and the French borders, outskirts of Geneva. Next. Okay, next. Then other experiment, Pan-STARRS Sky Survey. This panoramic survey telescope and rapid response system, it is to find out the Earth approaching objects from this space. Next. The brain research. Nowadays, the current active, one of the big science experiment is blue brain experiment, right? That is to create a human brain like, artificially you want to create like a human brain like structures, and which will be used for Alzheimer's disease and all that. Blue brain project, you can all see this, what's happening there. Next. Then translational medicinal system, basically to find out drugs and all that, which are different type of relations. Basically you have to find out different types of relations among the genes and all that. So a lot of computational. Okay, next. Yeah, next. And weather prediction. Nowadays we wanted a very precise weather prediction. The weather models are also day by day getting complex. Next. So we are adding so many things, like earlier atmosphere weather, this one only. Then we started adding land models. Then we started adding ocean models. Then we started adding the whatever the sulfur models. All to this we are climate modeling software, and so that we can give a realistic predictions and all that. Next. Then medicine side, translation model we have already seen. Next. So banking application, lot of banking applications today we are talking about, and that also generating a lot of data. Next. Then text analytics. Today we are able to see the lot of things like a human, like the computers, and then systems you can interact with the computers with a human like this one. So a lot of text analytics also, it handles a lot of big data and generative AI and all that. Next. Yeah. So like this, the data getting next. And then big data visualization. This also consumes a lot of, right? Nowadays we wanted the big data supports a lot of types of visualizations and all that. There are also a lot of data consuming and then storage consuming. Next. Okay, so I will not get into that, except that I'll just say the data science, what you do is you capture this data and then you do a lot of processing on that, clean the data and then do the analytics and all that, various things, right? And then idea is to give the solutions. You will mine some information from that. Next. Okay, next. Skip this. Yeah. So the data characteristics is lot of data. Large volume of data is this is the tunnel, inverted tunnel volume. It indicates the volume, and then the data after you get processed, the volume gets reduced, and then you get the knowledge for the decision making and all that. You get okay. So this is what the data science people will be. These are the various roles which data science people will be playing in that. And next one. So this is the data cycle we talk about. I'll skip this part, okay, because you have other things. Okay, thank you. Any questions?